Paul then goes on to speak of the control that prophets are to have over their own spirits, as he says in verse 32. And the spirits of the prophets are subject to the prophets. Some of these believers may have thought that one of the signs that one has a gift of the Spirit is that they lose all control so that their spirit takes over and they end up acting uncontrollably, just saying whatever comes to their mind, even if it means them rudely interrupting another speaker. Paul would have every prophet know that this is not a sign that the Spirit is at work. The spirit of the prophet does not overpower and dominate the prophet himself, but instead, the prophet's spirit and his respective gifts are to be subject to him, and he's responsible to use them in a proper and orderly way. Thus, if the prophet succumbs to chaotic, unruly behavior, causing disorder within the assembly, the prophet is to know that it's his own fault, and it's not due to God working in him in some way. The reason they were to know it was not of God is because, as Paul says in verse 33, for God is not the author of confusion, but of peace, as in all churches of the saints. Now, many believers often think this passage implies that no true doctrine of God will be confusing or extremely difficult to understand, but that is not what it's referring to at all. The word confusion in the Greek literally means instability or disturbance or state of disorder. And it's the concept of disorderliness that Paul largely has in mind in the text. This fact is supported by verse 40, where he calls for all things to be done decently and in order. The word decently can refer to doing something in a proper and polite manner where one is respectful and considerate of others. And then Paul uses the word order, which refers to a proper organization or arrangement of something. This helps shed light on what Paul is really speaking of in verse 33, where he speaks of how God is not the author of confusion or disorder. He's not implying that Yahweh never reveals information and may be confusing or hard to understand. It is simply that God never encourages or commands his children to act in a disorderly, unruly way. Paul asserts this in order to encourage the Corinthians to refrain from any behavior that might cause others to get confused or irritated and disturbed. He would have them all know that such behavior is unacceptable. It's disorderly because God is not the author of such disorder. Instead, as Paul says, God is the author of peace. This word peace carries the idea of tranquility or harmony among individuals, or lack of conflict or tension. And it's this peace or tranquility that God is indeed the author of and desires to produce among brethren, where brethren come to resign themselves to God, putting others before themselves, where they're patient and kind and respectful, manifesting the fruits of the Spirit as they interact with each other. It's when this happens that there will be peace. And Paul would have the Corinthians and all of us know that when this peace is achieved, it is only because of Yahweh himself, for he is the ultimate author of all true peace.